whenever I pull up a Synastry chart, I'm always like, gird thy loins, because it's like so much information all at once. And the way that my brain works, I get things in layers. So I get like 15 layers of things, and I'm like, okay, slow down, Poncho, one thing at a time. Okay, so that's why I talk too fast sometimes, because my mouth can't keep up with my processing, I suppose. So we shall slow down, and we're going to make this very simple. We'll start with just house overlays: sun, moon, angles. Keep it very simple. First and foremost, I've got Brad in the middle. If you're going to set up this chart, Brad's in the middle, Angelina's on the outside. I have included the vertices just for shits and giggles. So, okay, her sun is in Gemini. As you know, her sun falls into his 7th house, conjunct his descendant. That's a classic. If you go on any, astrology blog and what are the marriage, synastry aspects, they'll say, oh, sun luminaries conjunct the descendant. Yeah, sure. It just means that there's a natural attraction there. She holds space as something that feels a little bit opposite to who he sort of is. Okay, his ascendant is in Sagittarius, and as I said earlier, because of the way his chart is ruled by, his moon rather, is ruled by all of his stellium in Capricorn, is ruled by that Saturn in Aquarius. He's got this earthy quality to him, but also this visionary quality, and he sees in her ephemeral, ethereal thing, and there's this nice wanting to kind of bring it down to earth and help give it shape and form, and actually protect her as well. That desire to sort of keep her safe or keep her kind of contained and protected is pretty powerful. Now that sun of hers also, it squares his Pluto and it squares his Uranus. So it's electrifying and exciting. It's Uranus who makes a square to your sun. There's just this sparky chemistry. Okay, so if we're talking chemistry here, we just made like sparks happen. But do sparks like last for a long time? Not really. And in fact, they're kind of unpredictable and they can cause problems, right? So Uranus aspects are really exciting, and many times they're great for transitory relationships. Like you'll see really strong Uranus in relationships that are meant to be sort of short-term, really life perhaps transforming in a sense. They revolutionize you. They get you to let go of things you've been holding on to, but really difficult to hold on to those relationships over the long haul. I'm not saying that they have this. I'm just saying if you see in the Davison and in the Synastry really strong like Uranus conjunct sun or conjunct moon or angles or the nodes, that tells you this is a relationship that's meant to be exciting and stimulating, but not necessarily, it's like trying to hold on to a lightning bolt. It's just very difficult to do. It's not the nature of the beast. Okay, now her Mercury is also in the 7th house. So that this is one where her Mercury is opposite his sun, and conversations between the two of them, it's like she understands where he's coming from, and she is there to be sort of in a sense a helpmeet to him because it falls into his 7th house. But then we want to look at, like, do they have good Mercury contacts? Do the ways their minds operate, do they always function well together? And I'm going to say no. Her Mercury is retrograde, and it's in Gemini. And a Gemini, I almost feel like, because it's such a strong Mercury and it's retrograde, that makes it even more of a difficult retrograde to deal with. When she doesn't know how to say what she doesn't know how to say, she doesn't know how to say what she doesn't know how to say. And it's going to be inside of her, and it's going to come out in really unpredictable ways. 11th house, okay? And her Mercury makes a quincunx to his moon, his heart, and his Venus. So he's going to have this patience and try to like kind of understand her, but also kind of go like, you're crazy. Like, what are you talking about? Like, what? Because he's coming from this place that's much more grounded and practical. And for her, because it's all stuck inside of her, it's hard to get it out sometimes. And then when it does come out, it doesn't come out the way she means for it to come out. Do you see there's like it could be impractical. It can be kind of like, I was like, where did you come up with that? So their fights, if anything, are going to be sort of ones where she's going to walk away kind of feeling a little crazy and feeling a little pissed off that she feels like she's being made to feel crazy, and because she just needs someone to understand her. See, it's a quincunx. Quincunxes mean there's this issue of when one planet's being used, the other can't. So when she's communicating, he emotionally thinks he's getting her, but he's not really totally getting her, and vice versa. So there's just this, you walk away feeling a little bit misunderstood, okay? So the communication issue, I know I'm supposed to just do the sun and the moon, but this is how I do it, and whatever. It's because it rules her sun. So overall, the And because we know, obviously, they're lovers, we know that they like each other. So I'm not going to focus so much on, oh, they have great sex, or they or think that they're attractive, and when they met each other and they're Mr. and Mrs. Smith or whatever, obviously. Okay, so let's focus on the things that are difficult between the two of them. Also because, see, her Mercury rules her sun, and her Mercury is opposite his Sagittarius. That's a magnetic kind of a magnet thing. Sagittarius and Gemini, to me, as far as oppositions go, I like oppositions. To me, oppositions I think are fantastic. They get a little difficult with the fixed signs, but even with the fixed signs, it's this yin yang kind of back and forth bantery thing that's really hot. That's probably what they experienced, actually. One of the things of many, actually, when they were on set is a bantery thing. So like she probably teased him a little bit, but also his Saturn makes a trine to her Mercury. So it's like she knew it was safe for her to kind of flirt with him, like, that he would kind of keep his boundaries. He'd keep the boundaries up, but yet it was very bantery and repartee-ish. So it was like respectful, but playful, until I guess it wasn't. Now let's look at her moon. So her moon, she's got that Aries moon conjunct Jupiter and Mars, very fiery, passionate, but it's like ideologically fiery. It's in the Sagittarius house. That's his sun sign. So there's a little bit of a simpatico there, of course. They get each other. But she's going to want to be, it's quite a restless moon, Mars, Jupiter placement. Like she's got to do something with her life. She's got to do something emotionally. She's got to be doing adventures. It gets bored easily. It's got to be going and moving and passionately, creatively transforming things and always on to the next idea and the next project. It's very busy. But I feel like with also that sun that's in Gemini in the 11th house and Mercury there, that's a lot of really nervous energy that she gets burnt out really easily. This lack of earth in her chart, the lack of she's got all this air and fire, you run out of fuel and you get tired, you get exhausted. His Jupiter, which is in his 4th house, see, that's that idea of home, and he's part of the reason why they have lots of kids, by the way. They both want them, but like he's very optimistic about home and like, let's have lots. It conjoins this Mars, Jupiter, moon thing she's got going on, and it's exhausting. And so she takes on more, she bites off more than she can chew with this guy. Like he inspires her to be her biggest, best self, but then that's going to also exhaust her fuel, exhaust her energy resources. Okay. And so there's definitely a relationship where if you look also at her stellium in Aries, it squares all of that Capricorn energy. See, that Capricorn part of him is the part that says, okay, let's, here's this big grand idea. Let's have a family together. Let's create home. Let's create, like, we can do it any way we want to. It's our family, Jupiter in the 4th house. It's like overly optimistic. She's like, okay, let's do it. That sounds fantastic. And like, she would have jumped into it because it's very spontaneous. That's what an Aries moon does. Conjunct Jupiter, conjunct Mars in Aries. She would have jumped into it. And then, oh my gosh, this is exhausting. I am exhausted. Truly. Now, the good thing is, you got his Saturn. His Saturn does make a little sextile to her. Is it to her Jupiter or is it to her moon? I'm sorry, I can't tell. It's because it's such a stellium. I think it's her moon. No, it's her Jupiter. It's her Jupiter. Okay. Okay. So that's good. It kind of tempers her. He does temper her desire to kind of take on too many projects because it's conjunct her MC. He helps her to sort of focus her vision. His Saturn falls into her 7th house of marriage. So he kind of grounds her as her marital partner and is like, okay, you need to calm down just a little bit and like put a bridle on those horses and you're galloping. Let's just walk for a moment. Let's maybe stop for a moment. So he's going to slow her down, stop her, which is good. She needs that. For sure. Woo. This is such a, it definitely is this, she's floaty and he pulls her down to the ground, which is good because he keeps her from floating away. But at times she's also going to feel like, stop pulling me down to the ground. And he's also going to feel like, can you stop floating away? Can you just stay down here for a second? There's a little bit of of that happening. Her being a little too ethereal, too ephemeral. Now, her moon also, this is like spaghetti junction. Her moon makes a quincunx to his Neptune. That's quite a belongingness feeling. That's very, we are meant to be together kind of a thing. And her moon, all this moon stuff, this moon, that's so professional. This moon stuff that she has, her stellium, it's in Aries, as well as her Pluto, which is, anybody her same age, but her IC also across the way in Libra. Okay, these two, this little axis. they are forming a T-square with his Capricorn stellium, including his South Node in Capricorn. So this is where things get interesting. I've got to pull up the tables because this is where I'm like, let's see what they were to each other in a past life. You know, you got her moon falling into his 4th house. That's family. Your family, up and down, back and forth, sideways. I don't care how you want to put it. You're family to each other. And her South Node falls into, of course, his 6th house. So guess who was the one who was sort of, there was an element in this relationship of self-sacrifice and service for the partner. And interestingly enough, you know, her son in this life, her son's in his 7th house. So she's back to sort of reprise the role of the marital partner. Her Venus is conjunct his vertex. That's extremely soulmate based. That's like, your vertex is like your soulmate portal. And it's opposite his moon and his Venus. So to me, this is definitely a relationship where in the past life, very good chance she was the wife that had to sort of put aside her needs, her romantic needs, to be with her husband. And she served her family. She served her love by allowing him to, and I think they've had actually multiple past lives together. But she, at least the theme she's carrying forward here is it's as though he owes her something, okay? Her South Node falls into his 6th house. So it's like his 6th house, which is his house of the servant, is the one that's being reminded. Remember this? Remember when you left, you weren't here? Her North Node falls into his 12th house. Her North Node is in this life. Someone whose North Node falls into your 12th house, you've got karmic work to do together. Does it mean you're going to be together for the rest of your lives? Not necessarily. It could. Let's see. So the ruler of her North Node, her soul path in this life, falls into her 9th house, sorry, it's her Jupiter, and that falls into his 4th house. That's home. We're here to do home together. We're here to do family together. And it's quite expansive. And it is that Aries Jupiter, which is squaring his nodal axis. Let me get the exact, just pulled up I know I'm going kind of all over the place with this. The McDonald's coffee was, just stay with me. I'll make it make sense. Okay, so she's got a 17-degree Jupiter. His nodes are at 11 degrees, 12 degrees, sorry. So let's go with, I'm just trying to see for her. So her moon's at 13, so it's her moon. So her moon squares, it's home. Her moon, which falls into his 4th house, squares his nodal axis like pretty much exactly. It's a 1 degree, it's off by 1 degree. It's, other than that, it's like an exact square. If we talk midpoints, we got an exact square here. So that's home, that's family. That it says that that's hers the wife, because it's the moon, it's hers the moon, having in Aries, that's her having to survive solo on her own, hold down the fort, so to speak. Mars, and she probably seriously had to use a gun to protect her family, and while he was off fighting, he's probably like Civil War, or, so, this does feel kind of American, I don't know, feels like she had to kind of stay home, take care of her family, take care of her community a little bit, even, that Uranus that she's got, or sorry, not Uranus, what is it? She's got her Sun and her Mercury in that Aquarius house. So it's kind of like she had to provide for and take care of others as well that were displaced. I feel like she was like a widow, or maybe she was what do you call a military man's widow, that helps displaced children and whatnot. So Saturn in the 12th house that she's got there too. Yeah. See, and her Saturn falls into his 8th house. That's a classic. In her 12th house, she's got Saturn. That's a past life. 12th house is past life stuff. Saturn's fears. It's something pretty shitty that happened in the past life. Okay. In my mind, it's like, well, there was that life and that wasn't very fun. And that forced me to have sadness and a burden and weight and heaviness. And I'm bringing it forward in this life and I have no idea what it is. I just feel this burden. If someone makes access to your Saturn, bar none, you have this sense, I don't know what this is, but you kind of scare me, or you make me feel, these feelings that I don't really want to have to look at, or don't know how to look at. And her Saturn falls into his 8th house, and her Venus does as well. So that's, to me, it's like that there was some sort of a, she might die on him in this life too, actually, because Saturn in the 8th house, Venus as well. Interesting. I'm not going to speculate, but I'm going to speculate. Okay, at any rate, back up. Sorry, I get a little excited and I get kind of off track here. Let's go back to her ascendant. Now, so we sort of looked at the moon. There's just so much going on with that moon, that T-square, that it's kind of irresistible. It's also got, Pluto opposite. It's this T-square with Pluto and her stellium and his Jupiter, and it's all related to family and expansion, but it's also related to past life things. And his South Node falling into her 6th house. See, they both have this. There's a 6th house activation for both people, and both of their South Nodes fall in each other's 6 houses. So it's kind of like he was in the service of perhaps his country, and she was in the service of perhaps him, of the family. The rulers, let's look at that actually and see really quickly. It might give us some clues. So his ruler, his Saturn, falls into her 7th house. He was her husband. Very straightforward. Her ruler of her Mercury falls into his 7th house, and she was his wife. So they were spouses in a past life, but they were separated from one another, is my best guess, due to war. And so that's why their very first movie was Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Cheers, makes perfect sense. They're both a little pissed off at each other. It's like, but they don't know why. So we're going to just go ahead and through this Neptunian mode of a movie, we're going to have to kick each other's asses a little bit, and then we'll be good. And that's going to just got to get it out of our systems. So if that makes any sense. Okay, now this was fun. I'm going to actually stop right here. I'm not going to go into obviously this couple. Well, maybe we will. Should we go into their sex life? Why not? It's fun, right? Oh, well, we'll touch on it just for a second, and then I'm going to really go into the Davison. The Davison's where all the beauty really lies, because it tells you the purpose of this relationship long term and why they're here. Who are you to each other? Okay, which is to me more valuable. All right, so if you want to know about sexy time with them, you've got first and foremost. You can look at house overlays and look at, just the actual context between the sexual planets. They have chemistry in general, just between the two of them. They're opposites. Opposite sun signs many times have a nice vibe. There's just a magnetism there, and there's a draw. It's like you mirror each other. You hold things that the other person doesn't hold. It's just like a lock and key kind of a thing. Okay, but when we look at, for example, his Mars, which makes a square to her Pluto. That is so interesting. Mars to Pluto is why their fighting scenes in Mr. and Mrs. Smith are so sexy. Mars-Pluto it's either violence or it's like passionate, I might kill you, I might make love to you, sex. Okay, that's Mars-Pluto, and they have it. And on the other end, of course, is her Mars. And so her Mars is opposite his Pluto, and it's being squared by his Mars. It's his whole sort of stellium. His Venus that's there in Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, which it's like his Venus doesn't, he may actually, in their love life, be unsatisfied a lot. They have a really strong chemistry towards one another. It's very sparky, but Mars-Pluto chemistry tends to wear off. As far as long-term sexual chemistry, they're lacking in a little bit of ease, there's something kind of missing, okay, with her sexual chemistry. Her Venus does fall into his 8th house, which is a very magnetic. This female holds, especially her when she's being affectionate and mothering, and he'll see her. I don't know if she breastfed her babies, but for example, if she did, him seeing her with the baby, at her breast would have been really attractive to him, and not necessarily directly sexually, but in a sense, yes. He would really see her as this beautiful woman that it would deepen his love for her, which thereby would make lovemaking better, right? It's all connected. But as far as just straight up kind of sexual chemistry for them, it's mainly their Mars-Pluto kind of activations, which, as I said, over time tend to kind of wear off. And this is a relationship. It's like a real marriage. This is one where it's they're not together just because they have this really amazing sex life. Her Venus actually, is opposite his Venus, opposite his moon. And let me get the exact, what we got going on here as far as exact oppositions. And because of, it's a 5-degree orb between the two of them, and they're in the signs of the mother and the father. So there's they both value this idea of creating family, and they came together because she held the mother card, he held the father card. They came together. It was like a perfect natural fit. But it's being squared by her Aries Mars, right? Her Aries Mars squares that. So there's a part of her that is a little bit feisty and stops actually, in my mind, I think she probably is the one, if anything, that could be the one to initiate sex, but also the one that kind of prevents it from happening or causes little fights to even get it to happen. That's a Mars and Aries thing to do. She might kind of try to aggravate him, piss him off, because then it kind of gets him turned on, because that activates, it squares his Mars, so I can see that happening in his first house. But also they could be irritating. They could kind of like really piss each other off and irritate each other, actually. The harmony elements in their synastry is a little tricky. It's great for initial chemistry, but when it comes to long-term relating, it's one where it could be a little, there's some challenging. They've got to use that energy in a way where they're using it outside of a relationship, which is why all the adoptions of all the children has probably happened, because that Jupiter is in the 4th house of home. It's like every time she gets a little cantankerous, it activates his Jupiter. So then it's kind of like, okay, we got to put this energy somewhere. Let's go adopt more kids. let's make more. And it sort of, activates that part of his chart, which is actually really hilarious. Okay, now I'm going to stop right here, and then we're going to do the last part, which is the Davison chart.